This has been a long time coming, but Nowstalgia goes to Sundance.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Park City, baby.
you know, fortunately for us, Sundance was virtual this year, which allowed us to be able to get movie tickets to see Judas and the Black Messiah, a movie I think we both have been highly anticipating. The Shaka King movie. Who he's made a few movies, but nothing really high profile.
Rising talent for sure after this.
Yeah, and I think this is really going to put him on the map. You know, when you get Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield to be co-leads in a movie about Fred Hampton, uh, right there, the movie should sell. But Shaka King
Hmm.
has done interviews where he's like, "Yeah, only Warner Brothers gave me a decent money pitch for this.
That's
Every other
absurd,
studio like pretty much undersold it. So
right?
really disappointing. And especially as we start like Black History Month, but within the past year, the way that Black voices have been um, increasingly noticed and elevated, um, just very tone deaf. And obviously, this was pre-lit and funded before all probably the George Floyd thing happened, but still, just like to
Yeah,
not find the story to be
it's
profitable
being edited at that time.
is ridiculous.
Yeah,
But yeah,
just to mention for everyone, this will be coming on HBO Max on Friday, February 12th. So 2 Fridays from now, and this is the third movie in their run of HBO Max releases where it's on the platform for 30 days or whatever, and then it'll just be in theaters. Obviously, Wonder Woman and the Little Things preceding it, but after Wonder Woman, this is definitely a big event movie for that HBO Max Warner Brothers push, and it's really great. So it's definitely deserving of the hype.
yeah, it's it's been compared at least in structure to the killing of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Oh, that's good.
Telling the story of this assassination from the vantage point of the traitor. Um,
Hmm.
Lakeith Stanfield in this movie, um, playing William O'Neill and Wild Bill O'Neill. This I don't know. I guess like car
Yeah,
thief,
petty
and
criminal.
yeah, car thief in what they're in Chicago, and
Yes.
he gets basically used by Jesse Plemons's Roy Mitchell, but pretty much just like avatar for FBI agent in this
Hmm.
movie, as like a double agent to get close to Fred Hampton and provide information about Hampton's rise with the Black Panthers and his goings about. It's incredibly interesting, and I think just like that pitch right there is like enough to pull anybody in. But then you bring in Daniel Kaluuya in this role as Fred Hampton, who is just like at 100 the whole time. Like he's painting the black. He's just absolutely phenomenal in this film, and I feel like his presence is actually almost like too strong to the point where like when he's not on screen, I'm like, man, just get him back on screen. I just want to
Right.
see him some more. I heard you say it was really great. Tell me what you liked about the movie.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, thinking about what Shaka King said about how they struggled to make this movie. I mean, the script is so strong. Like you said, they make you want so much more of Fred, right? Like he's largely sidelined when he's in jail for parts of the movie. And it's not just all those fire whipping speeches that he
Yeah,
gives. And the pace is really immaculate for that. And, when you get those moments where, it's Fred Hampton out in public showing how great of an orator he was, a leader of people, a gatherer of group, um, it like calling things electric in film is cliche, but it's like really like that crackling stuff.
hmm,
And as the movie was going, I just started feeling like shit. I was like, this is so fucking sad, you know, and like thematically throughout, because of how what Fred is talking about, especially in like those more private conversations where Kaluuya is more restrained yet still really charismatic. I think like thematically you get to a similar place that a lot of other recent movies have gone to. Like historically speaking, this movie is similar to Trial of Chicago 7, where of course,
Mhm.
Fred Hampton makes a small appearance in that film because he's there supporting Bobby Seale, one of the founders of Black Panthers. And that trial then is in fact referenced in Judas and the Black Messiah. But I think thematically, the movie is actually more similar to Ma Rainey and One Night in Miami because
Mm.
it's so focused on Black independence and liberation and what tactics and ideas you should and should not pursue. And I think everything really nails, throughout this movie. It's so propulsive. And Shaka King in the Sundance intro, he's like, "Enjoy the movie. It's not the happiest thing, Like I actually really appreciated how he's like, yeah, this
Mhm.
shit like kind of sucks, but it's good to watch, you
Yeah,
know.
that was pretty cool to like hear from him at the beginning. Nice touch of Sundance. Um, I want to clarify before Roy Mitchell is an actual FBI agent who's been documented in this, but I
Yeah,
think
whatever.
just like the point is he's not the center of this.
Yeah, scum is still scum, whatever.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I almost feel like the way that he's painted in this is like too kind in some sense. Like he's obviously awful, but they're like, oh, maybe he wasn't totally
Right,
racist.
right, and like when there's, I'm glad you brought that up. There's some moments where that is very over the top in Chicago 7, right?
Mhm.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's prosecutor character is like annoyingly portrayed as he's a good man, even though
Mhm.
he's doing this bankrupt ass shit in terms of this trial. And like for Plemons, I actually think again the casting is perfect because he's
Yeah.
doing a lot of what he did when he made his name. Well, I guess he made his name in Friday Night Lights, but when he like bursts out more dramatically with as Todd on Breaking Bad, right, where
Mhm.
it's like this is a two-faced person,
Yeah.
and you really believe in both of those faces, and you don't know which way to take it with him, right? Like
Mhm.
Clemens is so great for that, and playing this FBI agent who's able to really twist Keith Stanfield's character and like really like convince him. And, like, you believe that Plemons' character thinks the Black Panthers are just as bad as Ku Klux Klan, and like,
Mhm.
oh, well, he doesn't like the Ku Klux Klan either. He can't be racist. But like then you listen more, like you see that. But as you say, we get some scenes with J. Edgar Hoover, played by Martin
Mhm.
Sheen, and Hoover is just basically full tilt as like, yeah, like I have racist personal beliefs about Black people, but more importantly, the policies of the FBI are to target and repress them. And Plemons like raises an eyebrow when he's hearing that like to his
Mhm.
face, and you're like, huh. It's kind of interesting, I guess, to see that gray area where like you have differences of opinions between various racist people.
Mhm.
Like I actually really appreciate those scenes, and I don't think it actually ends up like making him sympathetic at all. It would have been
Yeah,
a huge mistake if it did.
yeah. I think in some ways it kind of leads you to be like, oh, maybe Roy Mitchell isn't that bad, but I think in the end you kind of just understand that these are awful people. I thought it was a really interesting and like affecting choice to have Martin Sheen play J. Edgar Hoover and this like over like and potentially this isn't overly like bombastic, but like really like uh
In the
as you
open.
mentioned, yeah, just like cruel person who's just like he's walking around kind of like a general like Patton almost in at the beginning of the movie, and he's like in front of this thing like you need to like find these people and kill them, take them off the street, do whatever you can. Like
Right.
the black people should not be rising to power, pretty much what he's saying. And Martin Sheen, known for being, America's president in the West Wing,
Yeah.
probably, the people that liberals during Donald Trump were just like, oh, I wish I'm forgetting what his name is, president, whatever, in
Oh,
the West
okay.
Wing.
Yeah, yeah.
They were like, oh, I wish he was our president. Like, and then you have him playing this really awful character. And man, I have to admit, I was even like, yeah, damn, Martin Sheen, what are you doing here, dude? But
Bartlett.
yeah, Bartlett, thank you. Um, but I thought that was a really great choice. I wanted to ask, like Lakeith in this movie is going against someone who's maybe giving the performance of their career. How did you feel about his performance and a little bit less of a showy role?
Definitely less showy, but more scenes, right? Like, he is
Mhm.
the actual lead. Like Kaluuya's gonna get run in best supporting. Uh I also think this is the role of Lakeith's career because this has
Mhm.
been a long time coming for him as being a leading man in like a capital D dramatic film. You
Yeah.
know, like obviously we love him on Atlanta,
Mhm.
and then he's really good in Sorry to Bother You, another leading performance. But I feel like this kind of levels up for me even again after Sorry to Bother You for him, because it's a layered character, right? And like you get those real life clips of that documentary that O'Neill gave in that interview, right? Where trying to understand this person as like, and you touch on the beginning too when he meets Clemens, it's like O'Neill didn't actually feel all that bad when Malcolm X and Dr. King died. Like, yeah, he felt a little
Mhm.
something, but you can tell he's not someone who cared about civil rights, even
Mhm.
though it was certainly in his interest to do so in the 1960s, right?
Yep.
And I think O'Neill in Stanfield's performance does such a good job of conveying how much of like a cowardly snake he really was. But like the movie title, like Judas and the Black Messiah, the movie was originally called Jesus Was My Homeboy or something along those lines. But like it does such a great job of making him feel like a Judas because you're seeing it through his perspective, as you said, like Robert Ford. It's
Yeah.
like, and I think Stanfield, just the way he's able to convey like that shiftiness, and like it's convincing that he got away with it as a mole, right? Like you believe in, like, I think some of those scenes where like he like when there's that violent confrontation at the headquarters and he like sneaks
Mhm.
out the back, and it's like, and then yeah, I think he's tremendous. And how did you feel when he was like really like uh sad about drugging Fred, knowing what was going to happen? Like, yes, he was tears in his eyes, just shooken up, but he was still doing it. Like, how'd you feel about that? Like, the O'Neill character at that time?
Yeah, I found O'Neill just really like reprehensible. I think that comes across in the movie as like this person who really seemed to like only be out for himself. And I think that's like why this movie works so well. Is it's this juxtaposition about this person who was like all about community, all about how do we make this a more fair and equal society for everybody. Whereas O'Neill is just like, yeah, I'm doing this for me. And like, I think it obviously being as close to Fred as O'Neill was all the time, he obviously saw the good he was doing. And you even saw like the credit O'Neill got when they like rebuilt the Panther headquarters and how much work he put into it. So I think there was probably some I actually really liked that scene because I think it really displayed the characters grapple with like moving towards something that was giving him actual purpose and being stuck in this cycle of constant like trying to like push himself forward despite how it might affect other people. And this is like that example to the 100th degree. um I thought that was pretty good, but how did you feel about it? It seems like maybe you weren't totally
No,
buying
no,
it.
I liked it. I
Yeah.
think they do their homework. They show their work with getting O'Neill to that point, and that's why again I think the script is really strong. Where like it serves both characters for the movie, O'Neill and Hampton. Um, and like you said, I've Kaluuya. Obviously, this is the first time he's been able to chew on all this, so much stuff, right? Like he was really good in Get Out, Oscar nominated for Get Out, but it's a different kind of acting chops when you're being a historical figure and you get to have those or
Mhm.
oratorial scenes.
Yeah.
And God, he is so so good in this, and really again like the screenplay and the two performances really hits home with how tragic this story is, and something that I think is under remarked upon in like when you learn about civil rights history and stuff. The murder of Fred Hampton is a footnote, if anything, when you're learning about this stuff, and for the average person, but like civil rights movement didn't stop after Dr. King and Malcolm X died. Like there was more casualties along the way, and this is one of the most tragic ones in that mix, given just how despicable the FBI activity regarding the Panthers were. And, I think a lot of people have a negative perception of the Black Panthers, especially their later part of the history certainly warrants that more. But like the early stuff, I think this movie does a good job of showing that they weren't just like National Guard people, but they were like really humanitarian.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of like Kaluuya scenes, besides the speeches, I actually really liked that like getting the gang together moment where
Hmm.
he like goes to that other Chicago gang, the Crowns, and he goes to see the uh, poor white people. Like, he gets all the groups and the Latinos as well, right? And it's like you understand like just how inspirational and effective he was as a leader and organizer because of that performance from Kaluuya.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say or ask, like, out of all like the big speech scenes, because Kaluuya gets a bunch of them in this as Hampton.
Mhm.
Um, was there one that you particularly liked or that stood out to you?
Yeah, well, the second one definitely, I think, is like really emotional scene because like the tragedy and the gravity of what's about to come is like really evident in the film at that point. So like that one like really kind of fucked me up. But I like the scene where he goes to the Crowns and the Crowns are like all like strapped up, being all intimidating. He's talking to their leader, played by Chris Davis, who's Tracy from Atlanta,
Hmm.
and then it's like, oh wow, this is really good. And then when they pay that back in that second big speech, and you see Chris Davis with that amazing fro, and he's just like nodding his head, throwing up his fist. I was like, oh man, they paid everything off so good in
Yep.
this.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. I also really liked when he went to I forgot what the name of it was, but the group of white people who had the
Confederate flag.
Confederate flag behind them, only because I felt like that really demonstrated like the command that Hampton had in that moment and the way he was like able to be disarming with like his charm but also
Hmm.
be like this incredibly inspiring and powerful presence, because he's in one moment like soothing his own people's anger and frustration and seeing this symbol of hate that's like up on the stage, but also like connecting with these people and talking about why the way that police and the government treat lower people or people who are considered lower within society to them, um, and getting them on board with this movement was just so like amazing to see, and it's just so convincing. The performance just, it feels like Kaluuya has to be top of the best supporting actor list for sure after seeing this.
Yeah, I think he's definitely getting nominated. And a late entry, a benefit of
Hmm.
the late debut due to this extended Oscar eligibility window. Yeah, it's probably going to go down to him and Sacha Baron Cohen by the sound of it, and maybe Leslie Odom's in that mix too. And it's kind of interesting to see a trio of movies about the 1960s with similar themes all kind of coalescing
Yeah.
um, at the same Oscars. So when we've remarked upon Plemons, Kaluuya, and Stanfield, I just want to mention some of the supporting cast, which I also thought are really well done. I mentioned Chris Davis. Laurel Howery has a kind of, one scene as a fellow informant or whatever, or, FBI person. Then you also have Ashton Sanders from Moonlight. You have Algie Smith from Euphoria. Dominique Thorne, one of the sisters in Beale Street. Like, I think there's some really nice casting in here. But Dominique Fishback
I
probably
was
is one
gonna
that stands
say.
out the most, of course, who we've been a fan of ever since The Deuce. And
Hmm.
she's really good, in this. I think not only does it give another side to Fred Hampton, which I think is a benefit of the screenplay and necessary to really like fully color in who he was as a person, but
Hmm.
it's also serving her character in the process as well. It's not just the girlfriend.
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't really talked about her much, but playing Deborah Johnson in this, I think she exudes like an intelligence and a presence, and I really like how they frame the interaction, like the first couple interactions she has with Fred, and pretty much every interaction with like her always kind of expanding and challenging his mindset to grow and open up and to see himself differently, even from that first speech he gives to I forgot, it was like a group of community people, and she's like, you're actually a poet, and like kind of like framing him in that sense, and like kind of like the light bulb that went off for him after that. I just was like, oh, this is really cool that they're not just making her like the better woman behind the man out in front, but like
Hmm.
this like partner in terms of like helping him see and understand his perspective. I thought was really well done. So um, yeah, really impressive from Shaka King. Seems like he's uh, destined to be making a lot of these movies, and hopefully, and I from everything I've read in interviews with him, seems like he's interested in continuing to tell Black stories, which I think is really awesome as well. And I'm sure he'll get a lot more funding after this. So gonna be seeing some cool stuff from him.
Yeah,
Any last
definitely.
thoughts?
Uh,
Check out
Friday the
Sundance.
12th. Check it out. Thank you, Sundance, for the early hookup, though.